Caspar Darling was a pillar of the Federal Bureau of Control. His work was foundational for understanding the paranatural, and his inventions would be instrumental in saving the Bureau he dedicated his life to. But in his desperation to uncover the secrets of the paranatural world, he would end up inside of it. Here is the story of Dr. Caspar Darling and how he ended up lost in the dark place. Darling's early life is a mystery, but his career at the Federal Bureau of Control began in 1995. And for Darling, it felt like he had always been there. He fit right in. Most of his career would be spent inside the oldest house, and sometime during his 24 years there, he would be promoted to head of research by Director Trench. Trench and Darling became very close. They would become friends, and Darling would also become Trench's right-hand man. Trench would trust Darling, so much so that when his daughter fell ill from some kind of paranatural infection, he wanted to bring her to the Bureau for Darling to treat. Unfortunately, she never made it to the oldest house, and Trench's daughter died. But Trench and Darling trusted one another, and initially they had a very good relationship. With the support of Trench, Darling researched everything that he could: the astral plane, objects of power, para-utilitarians, altered world events, everything. He seemed to have no boundaries, as once he was even researching a tiger shark for what is a mystery, but in the middle of his research, a shift of the house occurred, and the shark and 2,000 gallons of water were unexpectedly shifted into an executive sector meeting room. The security order that was released afterwards said, "Shoot to kill, good luck." And while the shark research most likely didn't work out, Darling succeeded at helping to further stabilize the control points inside the shifting house. He was learning to help control the uncontrollable house, but it was the things outside of the oldest house that fascinated Darling the most. The astral plane and everything inside of it especially fascinated Darling. He would dedicate quite a bit of his research to uncovering its mysteries. His research staff would enter the astral plane so that Darling could monitor their brain activity. He and his research team were even able to record footage of it. Darling also studied many altered world events from all over, and these discoveries also helped him push the boundaries of what he knew. He began to question what we were truly capable of.
There's something unique in us, in our dreams, in the conceptual reality with power, with our minds. What's the cause and what's the effect? Are we the starting point or just a necessary evil in this? A byproduct, a reflection, a projection? We'll struggle to find the answers to these hard questions, or die trying.
All of Darling's work made one thing very clear to him. Despite all their research and success, they actually knew very little, but he was dedicated to pushing the known laws and borders of reality. He was the perfect person to research the paranatural. Darling would also work with Trench, telling him about the process of becoming director, letting him study the service weapon, hotline, and providing more insight into the board. Them teaming up to head more projects made sense. They worked well together and had the future of the Bureau first and foremost in mind. Trench with its safety and Darling with its advancement. So they created the Prime Candidate program together. At this point, other para-utilitarians were inside the FBC, with some even assisting in Darling's work. Using the floppy disk, they would launch things telekinetically through the air, 3 dozen pencils and even a cup. But this wasn't enough to make a new director. Trench had doubled every effort to find new candidates after Northmore stepped down. And over the course of their search, Prime Candidates 1 through 5 were dead ends. But they would keep searching. Their search would come to an end in 2002. After the Bureau heard of the mysterious events in Ordinary, Dr. Darling and Director Trench would lead the investigation into the now-ended Altered World event. Some children in the town had gotten a hold of an object of power that opened the door to other dimensions. It opened the door for paranatural entities and caused the children to turn into monsters and the adults of Ordinary to vanish, and it lasted for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, the FBC arrived on September 14th when the AWE was already over. But when they did arrive, they only found the children left in the town, among them Jesse and Dylan Faden. This AWE was everything that Darling wanted. a new prime candidate, and a new object of power. He was excited that everything was coming together, an opportunity to advance his research and learn more with a new prime candidate. From the Altered World event, Darling wanted two things brought to the oldest house: Dylan and the entire town dump. He planned to look through the dump for any other hidden altered items, and Dylan would be their next prime candidate, P6. Darling would lead the project. Unfortunately for Darling, trying to mold P6 into the next director was much more challenging than he was expecting. At first, when Dylan was brought back to the oldest house, they realized they didn't have the proper means to take care of a child. So the Threshold Kids was created, a way to introduce para-utilitarians like Dylan to the paranatural world. Unfortunately, even with the creepy Threshold Kids, the Bureau and Darling were still not equipped to raise a child. Dylan was also very powerful and very uncontrollable. He grew up in an environment not built for what he needed, and they all suffered because of it. At first, there was only one death.
There was an incident. Yes. We lost a valuable member of our team, yes. Excessive force. Dylan has so much. But he's just a kid. Like, I'll take the blame. He needs some slack. I mean, boys will be boys. He's exceptional and under a lot of stress. Roberts got killed. It's an unfortunate accident, that's all. Marshall needs to realize this. We will make this work. We'll make this work.
Darling tried to make light of the situation, desperate to make it work. But even Marshall pushed back on this. She tried to warn Darling of how severe the situation was, and that it would happen again. But Darling didn't listen, until several more of his staff were killed.
Dylan's a lost cause. I know I struggled to see this, but we've contained him now. I wish I had sided with Marshall back when it was just one person. So many dead. I thought his youth was an asset. Just too much too soon.
After this, Darling would stop visiting Dylan altogether, which only upset Dylan more. On top of this abandonment, Dylan was also placed in a cell in the Panopticon, treated like another paranatural item to be stored in a black rock cell, isolated from everyone else just like Darling wanted. It was the safest place for Dylan according to Darling. He wanted him away from everyone else. Only Darling's assistant, Carla Vaughn, would visit Dylan after this, replacing Darling in Dylan's sessions. Vaughn, under Darling's orders, would take up the work with Dylan, asking him questions about his sister, about the days, and other menial questions, which at first upset and saddened Dylan. He'd ask where Darling was, and even tried to apologize to him, but Darling never came.
Let's begin then. In a single word, describe the world around you.
Where's Casper?
Dr. Darling is out of the building today.
He's never out. He didn't want to come, did he? He never visits, not since Roberts. Tell Darling it wasn't my fault. I couldn't control it yet, but I can now. I learned. Will you tell him?
In a single word, describe the world around you.
A prison. A cold, empty prison.
Dylan would scream, angry and hurt at Darling for abandoning him, and angry at the never-ending questions. He'd scream until he would have to be sedated, which happened often. Eventually, Dylan's days turned into breakfast, toilet, lunch, toilet, TV, angry fit, sedation, and rinse and repeat, all while Darling never visited him again.
What day is it tomorrow?
Fuck off! I don't know! There is no calendar! How can I fucking know?
Dylan, calm down.
Fuck you! Fuck you and fuck Casper! Hey! Are you watching this, you old fuck? Did you send your bitch because you're too scared of me? Where is Casper?
Security, get a team in here. I need it.
Some word of what had been happening within the Prime Candidate program had begun to spread, and despite the research into P6 being classified, William Kirkland, the head of security, still managed to open an official investigation into the ethics of the program. His reporting was hard to complete because all known Prime Candidate subjects used their executive privilege to decline interviews, so very little first-hand information was documented. It was only anonymous sources and documents that were declassified by Kirkland that shed light into what was actually happening. These small bits of information painted an alarmingly clear picture of systematic redacted and redacted. The program had produced no successful cases and only resulted in the traumatic redacted of paranaturally inclined redacted. Kirkland declared that the Prime Candidate program and its treatment of its candidates was a violation of the ASH Act and goes against basic human redacted. He recommended that the program be closed immediately, and it essentially was. Once Darling abandoned Dylan, there were no more active candidates, and the program stalled. After deciding that Dylan, aka P6, was a lost cause, Darling decided to put his attention elsewhere, a new project. He set up a brand new department to focus on, dimensional research.
Effective immediately. I'm setting up a new department. Dimensional research in the research sector. Transferring the slide projector there. That's where my focus will be now. The ordinary site remains as is. We'll be back to... I don't know when.
He would also leave the ordinary site behind, with hopes of one day returning. With a new focus and a new dimensional research wing, Darling would also need a new staff. In his report on the possible choices, he says, "Dimensional research is going to change everything. The work we do there will be brilliant, dangerous, and revolutionary, so we'll need staff that meet the challenge. So far, I'm considering Carla Vaughn, Lorenzo Dunn, Hubert Tan, Edna Pierce, either Beth Harrington or Abe Lewis if their departments can spare them, and Emily is an obvious choice. But who knows what will come out of the doorways we open. Perhaps it's better to keep her somewhere where the work is less unpredictable, but she won't like that. And there's no way she won't notice a new secret research department. She's too sharp." Emily Pope was Darling's protege. She was personally recruited and joined his team around 2014, and Darling saw great potential in her. He wanted her work to advance and her to grow working under him, but he also wanted to protect her. He didn't let her have access to a lot of material, which made Emily very upset. Basically, anything confidential was off limits, which is what Darling's focus would be. Towards the later years of Darling's time at the oldest house, between the years of 2017 and 2019, he focused very closely on Hedron and the slide projector, things he didn't give Pope access to. She even requested to see Northmore's files, which Darling was only considering. In the end, though, Emily didn't make the cut. But Darling would personally recommend Pope for a promotion based on her work ethic and assistance in advancing many ongoing research matters, which is how she became a research specialist. And while Darling had a great deal of respect for Emily, she ultimately didn't make the cut to join his new super-secret team. With his new team, Darling and Trench would use Trench's ashtray maze to hide their secret project. Only Trench and those he invited inside would be allowed to pass through it. It was perfect. Here they would do the unthinkable. They would venture into the world opened by the slide projector. Trench would lead the expeditions and they'd visit Slidescape 36 without anyone else knowing. It was extremely dangerous, and during the first expedition there were casualties. But they continued, and on Expedition 3 they found an entity, a resonance, Darling's most exciting discovery yet, Hedron. Every casualty was worth it, since it brought Darling to Hedron. Darling was unbelievably excited at the discovery of this alien entity. He was even more dedicated to his research than ever. But while Darling was on cloud 9, Trench was dealing with something after that third expedition. They had made another discovery without even realizing it. Something got into Trench's ear, and he brought it back with him.
But I did find my meaning in that desert. A sound, like a needle drilling in, cutting through the containment suit and reverberating in the base of my skull. My whole being. Darling said it was nothing. But he was wrong. It's been there ever since, growing into a certainty, into an understanding of what's at stake here, what kind of a threat we're facing, and what must be done to stop it.
Trench had a medical evaluation that showed nothing was wrong, and any equipment that tried to detect whatever Trench had experienced came up empty. No one could find a problem, but the sound in his ear only got worse. Trench slowly started to become paranoid. He was paranoid of everything and everyone, including Hedron and even his dear trusted friend Casper Darling.
I gave Darling and his chosen crew license to pass through the maze. Lately, I've started to think I should revoke that license.
As Trench was in his head unknowingly dealing with the hiss, Darling was deep in his study of Hedron. Earlier in 2019, Darling had begun to make introduction videos to paranatural topics. They were for the Bureau with the encouragement of Tomasi. He also used these videos to document his time studying Hedron, how he was exposing himself to it, and how it had begun to change Darling. At first, he had used some kind of protection and maximum caution with Hedron, but over time he abandoned those securities. He did what a scientist probably shouldn't do and became part of the experiment.
Hedron is communicating with me. He's trying to warn me of something imminent. I've been using every known method to analyze the data. Exposing myself to it. I'm seeing things and overcome by compulsion. It's not just data, it's protection. It's benign.
Luckily, Darling exposing himself to Hedron was worth it, because Hedron was warning Darling about the hiss and what Trench brought back with him, and Darling listened. He followed Hedron's advice and created the HRAs. He exhausted himself doing so. He also did all of this without the support he was used to. The voice in Trench's ear made him suspicious of the HRAs, despite initially approving the project in the first place. Because of Trench, everyone had started questioning Darling and what the HRAs were really for. Rumors began spreading around the Bureau to the point that Darling felt he needed to directly address them.
I've been fielding questions recently regarding HRAs. What are they for? Do you always need to wear them? And what's the deal with the Hedron resonance anyway? Fuck. Despite what you may have heard, HRAs are not monitoring devices. We're not tracking your movements or listening to your conversations while you're wearing them. We do that regardless whether or not you're wearing an HRA. Think of them as a life preserver. Only instead of water, the thing HRAs protect you from is classified. One day that classified, not water, might pour in, and you'll be glad you got an HRA keeping you afloat. And if you don't have an HRA, don't worry. It'll be quick and painless. Kidding. I'm kidding. We're making more.
The HRAs were only one part of their growing feud, but it was very tense. Trench and Darling would become opposites. Trench with the Hiss and Darling with Hedron, and their feuding affected the entire Bureau. In a letter sent by Marshall to Salvador, she says, "Have you noticed the recent tension between Trench and Darling? They've both been acting odd lately. Trench concerns me the most. His sudden hostility towards Darling's project is very unlike him. He was the one to approve all this Hedron research in the first place. But after Darling unveiled those HRAs, he was livid. I personally don't see any reason not to equip Bureau staff with an additional protective device, especially not if it's as strong as Darling says." Their feud would split the Bureau. Some sided with Darling and agreed to wear the HRAs. Some sided with Trench and didn't. When their fighting began being felt all around the Bureau, the head of security, William Kirkland, intervened once again. At this point, he didn't agree with what they were doing, and he didn't trust whatever classified work they were hiding, already advising for the Prime Candidate program to be shut down. But the way the two behaved around the Bureau became cause for concern. He opened an ethics investigation into Darling after anonymous redacted regarding inhumane treatment of a redacted currently housed in the Bureau. During Kirkland's investigation, he didn't really find what he was looking for, and the results were inconclusive, just like his Prime Candidate investigation. There were many obstacles when he was trying to learn more about what he didn't know at the time was Hedron. The report says that most staff were unaware of what Darling was even doing. The files were inaccessible, being classified under the highest clearance. Investigators were blocked from entering redacted research wing, and the matter was made further unclear by the lack in clarity on whether non-human paranatural entities even warranted humane treatment. Kirkland couldn't come to a conclusion, but he did recommend further investigations. He also tried opening an investigation into Director Trench because of his behavior with Darling. The report says, "Notable redacted between Director Trench and Dr. Darling has been witnessed by numerous Bureau staff. Although both declined to meet for an interview on the matter, witness accounts suggest their arguments center around the Dimensional Research Wing and the redacted kept inside." Ultimately, Kirkland's investigation was another dead end, and it only pissed off Trench. Trench sent Kirkland a strongly worded letter that reads quite similarly to the Hiss incantation. And afterwards, Kirkland resigned. Trench and Darling were constantly feuding, and it was noticed by everyone. But Trench wasn't the only one who wasn't a fan of Darling. Some even blame him and Trench for steering the Bureau away from where it should be. The Tennyson report says, "For years, the Federal Bureau of Control has been wrongfully forcing a philosophy upon itself and its people. This philosophy is known to you all as science. We all realize that the concepts we explore are mystic ones, with arcane thinking required to understand them. Yet we insist on using words like paranatural and parautilitarian to create the illusion of a scientific structure, a tidy little system. The Bureau is desperate to stand with the closed-minded cult of logic and data that has overrun our society. If a thing cannot be quantified, then we dismiss it outright. We live in an age that is openly hostile to faith in the veiled forces governing our reality. I must remain anonymous for fear of reprisal from the anto-esoteric bureaucrats watching us from their plush offices. Those same bureaucrats, Trench and Darling chief among them, have been steering us away from the Bureau's arcane foundations for decades now. It's time we corrected course. If you stand with me, share this message. We are not alone." But regardless of what anyone thought, and regardless of how Trench was trying to interfere, Darling had a mission. He had been given instructions from Hedron, and this was how the Bureau was changing, unknowingly relying on an alien entity to stay alive. Darling would do everything he could to try and protect it. Building his individual HRAs would lead to creating this large-scale HRA. He made it to protect the resonance inside, Polaris. But in completing this mission, he was losing himself. He began rambling in his videos, talking about things that didn't make sense.
It's done. It's just one large-scale HRA. It's an easy choice, no choice. It's there now. Protecting forgetting the most important thing. Someone's coming. I'll be there inside. Locked in. Ready to be blown away. Commencing countdown, engines. Ready for the journey. To be Bowman flying into the model. Ready to see. To understand.
After this, Darling would prepare for the end of his own corporeal journey. After listening to Hedron and creating the HRAs, he went around the Bureau and gave them to any staff who would wear them. He also knew the NSC that housed Director Northmore would be a target of the Hiss. He did everything that he could to try to prepare the Bureau for the incoming Hiss invasion.
Dr. Darling seemed to know it would be a target.
Darling? He's here?
No, he came down a few days ago, before everything went to hell. He was out of it. Smelled like a bar mat. He was ranting about vulnerabilities and how he only had one large-scale HRA, but that he needed it somewhere else. Still, at least he gave us these personal HRAs before he left. Hey, did I mention that he was tearing his clothes off? Crazy dude.
Darling knew the Hiss was coming.
Darling ran himself ragged trying to prepare the Bureau, and once he did all that he could, he made his final message. Then he went inside Hedron and prepared for whatever was next.
I'm Dr. Casper Darling, and this is my final message. It's not the end. But after this, I won't. I exposed myself to Hedron resonance fully. It's changing me. I've seen. I've been shown so much. Slidescape 36 was where Hedron stopped the spread of another. It's terrifying. It really is. It's another source of resonance. Trench was exposed to this other. It will now spread. I've done everything I can to stop the Hedron resonance amplifiers. I don't know if it'll make a difference. I won't be here when it happens. I should have told Emily more. I'm being sent one more lesson. Something wonderful, I think.
What truly happened to Darling after this is a mystery, as is the message that he was being sent. But he did make one final call through the hotline to Jesse from somewhere unknown, some other dimension, some other plane of existence.
Hello, this is Dr. Casper Darling. I have a classified message for the director of the Federal Bureau of Control. I have sad news. Hedron is gone now, but it was not a source. It was a catalyst. Do you understand? You must go to my office, the Endgame. It will be revealed.
Darling knew the Hiss was coming, and it seems like he also knew Trench would be gone at the time of his message. Luckily, his message made sense to Jessie, because now she was the amplifier of Polaris, replacing Hedron. Darling wouldn't be seen again after this. His videos would help guide Jessie through her journey as the new director, and so would his final message to her, but no one knew where he went. And his presence and absence had a lasting effect on the Bureau, most of all for Raya Underhill. Darling and Underhill were apparently very close, and after he vanished, she wished that he found whatever he had been looking for.
I had a dream. Or something like one. Darling was there. He told me something, but I can't remember what. I think he's gone. Right.
Well, he's never where one expects him to be, is he? Well, thank God. I can finally stop writing these tedious reports that I'm sure he never even took the time to glance at. If you speak to him again, can you tell him I hope he found what he was looking for.
I'll try.
I should be getting back to work.
Not much is known about Darling's personal life outside of the Bureau, except maybe his connection to Raya Underhill. She had previously worked at the FBC for about 10 years, which was when she met Darling for the first time. But after growing frustrated with all the red tape, she left. But during her time away, her and Darling stayed in touch. They'd see each other at different conferences and stayed close over the years. When he invited her to come back to the Bureau and work with him at the oldest house again, she said yes, so the FBC needed a background check before she could return. The only flag in her background was an ongoing personal relationship with Darling that appears to have begun during their time as co-workers all those years ago and had been revisited intermittently ever since. Because of this personal relationship, the background check also advised that the two might have to sign a relationship clearance form if she did return to the oldest house. Aside from their relationship being flagged, Underhill was a great candidate, and she agreed to return to the oldest house to research the mold problem. Per Darling's request, Dr. Underhill returned to the FBC 4 months prior to the Hiss invasion. There's a letter between the two from shortly just after she arrived. Darling says, "Hello Raya, how is it going down there? Enjoying the mold so far? Settling back into life at the old FBC? I wanted to ask how your coffee with Emily went. She's a star on the rise, incredibly bright, extremely intuitive. But I want to hear what you thought of her. I think you two could be very good on a project together, could learn a lot from each other. Let's get together and chat about it soon. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. I'm sure you can't think of anything besides the mold right now. You always were a woman of focus. I always admired that about you. Talk soon, Casper." It's unknown if the two did actually disclose their relationship to the Bureau, but other people around the Bureau did seem to notice. In a letter from Dr. Abraham Lewis to Darling, he adds a snide remark saying, "I find it interesting that an old friend of yours gets her budget approved with no questions asked. I wonder if the Operations Oversight Committee would be interested to learn of that." In another letter from Abraham regarding the aforementioned budget, he had tried to butter up Darling with a bottle of well-aged brown single malt, which Darling apparently had been a fan of, but I guess that didn't work. Regardless, Underhill felt Darling's absence, and she wasn't the only one. Back at the lake house in Bright Falls, Washington, Darling's absence was also felt, but in a very different way. Originally sometime around 2016, Jules and Diana Marmont began their work at the lake house under the approval of Darling. Darling had tasked them with focusing on the AWE at Cauldron Lake until he decided to change their direction after their work stalled. In 2019, Darling had given them a new directive to now study the effects of art on the shadow, aka the dark presence. He visited the lake house in person to help guide the work of the Marmonts.
First off, a huge thank you to everyone here. The lake house has made amazing strides in researching the AWE here at Cauldron Lake. Great work, team. I wanted to come in person so I could check in on the latest work. I won't get in the way. It's not our view, so no reason to be scared. Did you hear that, Doctors Marmont? While I'm here,
I want to focus on the relationship between the shadow and the AWE site below the lake. The theory that the shadow even originates from the dimension this threshold is tapping into is compelling. Eventually, I want to understand how this dimension manages to convert subjective elements like art into objective reality. What are the constraints of this phenomenon? Can it, say, create altered items or even objects of power simply by manifesting them via a piece of art? These are the things we need to know to accurately classify the shadow. I mean, that name is not very scientific. I mean, who came up with that? The shadow. So, any and all proposals are welcome. Anything testing art's effect on reality by using the shadow's energy is preferred. To find answers, we'll first need a lot of data. No wrong answers. And when I return to the oldest house, I'll take back anything we end up with to run against a classified project called Hedron to build a comparative data set. Well, I wish I could tell you more. It's very, very exciting. Non-physical forces impacting. No, sorry, I really can't. It is classified. You know what? Maybe some of you can come visit. We'll have to get you clearance, of course, but maybe that can. You know what? I don't want to take the entire day talking. So, the shadow represents a whole new area of research, and I couldn't be more excited to start digging in. It is a brave new world, people.
During this visit, Darling also brought some artwork created by P6, Dylan Faden, to test its effect on the shadow. He sends a letter to the Marmonts that says, "I couldn't stop thinking about this new direction for the lake house after I got back to New York. I hope pivoting to researching Threshold Redacted's reality manipulation effect wasn't too much of a shock for you. It seemed like your work on containment was stalling, so I decided you all could use a fresh start. Here's something to get you started. Some drawings made by a certain Redacted a while back. Test for any reaction they may trigger with the shadow. Still don't like how unscientific that name is. You can designate the artist as P6 in your records. I expect regular updates. Go team!" Shortly after Darling's disappearance and after communication with HQ is cut off in 2019, the Marmonts send out a new research mandate about how Darling wasn't dreaming big enough. The mandate says, before Dr. Darling was lost in the lockdown of the oldest house, he tasked the lake house with discovering the nature of the shadow and its ability to convert art into reality. During our diligent research with this phenomena, it has become clear that Darling was not dreaming big enough, which leads us to the new goal of the lake house and its talented staff, to create a stable connection between the Cauldron Lake threshold and our own dimension. With that, all of Darling's instructions were abandoned. With Darling being missing since 2019, he would remain MIA in New York. But in 2023, Darling is seen again, just not where you'd expect him and not by the person you'd expect either. Towards the beginning of Alan Wake's story, he comes across a book with a familiar face on it. It's called My Interpretation of Many Worlds by Dr. Casper Darling. Alan also actually sees Darling after this. In the final draft of Alan Wake 2, Alan comes across a TV tuned to a familiar channel, The Dark Place. While Alan Wake is exploring the poet's cinema, he comes across a recording of Dr. Casper Darling, formerly of the Federal Bureau of Control.
This is Dr. Casper Darling, formerly of the Federal Bureau of Control. I think the signal is coming through now. Are you receiving me? I mean, something shifted. The previously observed interference disrupting my broadcast has gone. Fluctuation in gravitational forces, either something moved out of the way or my relative position to it changed, but the alignment or the condition of this whole plane spiraled to a more favorable position. The ordinary rules of reality do not apply here. The best I can describe this place is a dreamscape. But who's the dreamer? And how do you wake up from this dream? I've been taking readings with the limited equipment I've been able to secure. Some riveting data accumulating. Hypotheses taking shape. My struggle with this is that the way this place works makes any hypothesis immediately come back to alter and contaminate the data. Anyway, I've been working to capture and isolate and amplify certain frequencies from the background radiation ambient noise, so let's see what happens. Into the dark depth, light to midnight. I was caught in a loop. The deeper into the dark depths I got, peeling off the layers of the dark ice, like the ocean zones, from twilight to midnight, to abyssal to the deepest trenches. The closer I felt going out, to midnight, to abyssal to the deep peeling off place. Oh, this voice, the narration, from twilight to midnight, to abyssal to the deep. Going forever. This leads me to believe it's what's holding this place together. It's making it real. Is this the voice of the dreamer? What's strange is it sounds a little bit like my voice.
There's also a short snippet of Darling without his clothes on, which would be during the time his final message maybe have been recorded. Somehow, he ended up inside the dark place. Inside, he has been able to find limited equipment to record his blogs, and also take data of where he is trapped. He's excited to be there though, excited to study the dark place. Through his equipment, he hears the voice of Alan Wake and realizes that they sound the same. But even weirder, he realizes that he isn't alone. Tom Zane joins Darling for a drink, and they begin planning their escape.
Time as a linear construct does not apply to this place. I mean, is it because I never truly believed that was time's true nature and this place is reacting to my thoughts, or some other more fundamental reason? I don't know. That said, to the best of my calculations, subjectively, this is my day 665. It's a long time. I have explored every conceivable avenue of research, exhausted every scientific method of investigation I know, it's all dead ends. I feel like I need something else entirely. Some mad, creative mindset to help me. I'm not a scientist, an artist. This is a place for an artist. Oh. Well, hey man, how you doing? Hello. Darling, Dr. Casper Darling, it is so good to meet you.
Well, hello, Darling. I'm Tom Zane.
Have we met? You look familiar.
Well, you sound familiar. Hold on. You work out a lot, don't you? I mean, look at you. You're swole.
Well, I am active.
Yeah.
You wouldn't happen to know a way out of here, would you?
A drink?
Oh, cheers.
Keep it. You know what? You and I, we should join forces. Come up with a plan for escape. Art and science combine to form an unstoppable force.
Yes. Yes.
Yes!
We have to start to methodically test and eliminate various works of art within bounds of which you could wildly improvise.
This is the last time we see Darling, concocting some kind of plan with his new friend to join forces and come up with a plan for escape. Art and science combine to form an unstoppable force. This is the last time that Darling is seen, stuck in the dark place. And that is the end of Darling's story as we know it. There is a new clip of him in a recent trailer, but it seems like it's from another video from the past. before the events of Control. So I didn't really want to include it in here yet, but whenever I do make future videos on whatever Control Resident reveals, it'll be in that. But now that I've covered his story, I want to talk about 3 theories. Honestly, there's a million theories I could talk about, but there's 3 specific ones that I think are relevant to his overall story that I just covered. The first one is where Darling is. In his large-scale HRA video, he makes a reference to A Space Odyssey. In the movie, the scientist David Bowman journeys into the Black Monolith, a stargate. Once he enters, he becomes the Star Child, a non-corporeal energy that can travel through the universe freely. A nice parallel to what Darling's journey could have been. But unfortunately, I think his destination was much darker than he expected. We know Darling found himself in the dark place, but where did he go to get there? And now that he has traveled across dimensions, what is he capable of? Could he have become some kind of Star Child of his own? Maybe Darling himself is altered. After so much exposure to the Paranatural, Hedron, and Polaris, can he cross multiple dimensions and freely travel the universe just like in A Space Odyssey? This next theory is darker and is much more speculative. Before I get into it, first, I just want to say that I love Dr. Darling. He's a fascinating character, but I think he's hiding something. In the Control art book, there is a section about his design, about how his style is somewhat softer and looser than other Bureau people because maybe he wants us to believe that he is a bit harmless. What an odd thing to say. There's only a few types of people who want to seem harmless to the unsuspecting. Predators. You could say, oh, he wants to seem welcoming and inviting to the rest of the Bureau, so he doesn't feel like this imposing, powerful figure, but is that really the case? Could Dr. Darling be hiding more under that lab coat, besides his chiseled, beautiful abs? And if that is the case, could Mr. Bones shed some more light into Dr. Darling? The Threshold kids are a nightmare in itself, but they're also a reflection of Jesse, Dylan, and the Bureau, which means that Dr. Bones is probably a reflection of Bureau staff. And who interacts with them the most? Dr. Darling. He became the person that Dylan interacted with the most, and when Dylan killed one of Darling's men, Dylan was devastated, especially when Darling stopped visiting him. Now that could mean that they had a genuine connection, but I'd also argue that Darling always saw Dylan as an experiment. That's just how his mind works. He was a connection to the paranatural for him to study, which is why it was so easy for him to stop visiting him, and then for Darling to abandon Dylan entirely. It makes me wonder if there's a more cold-hearted nature of Darling that is shown through his connection with Dylan, but maybe also in the possible portrayal of Mr. Bones. Several times we see Mr. Bones manipulating and threatening Topher and Meg. In various episodes, Mr. Bones says some very weird things. He calls himself Uncle Mr. Bones to the children, trying to gain their trust. But he's also short with them. He's kind of uncaring about their reactions, and he's cold. When Meg says she doesn't want the big chair, Mr. Bones says, "Use those brains to listen for once, or the only chair you'll get is the one with straps." He's creepy and evil and threatening, which makes sense, since these were created to clearly manipulate the children with subliminal messaging. Which makes sense when you look at everything that is presented, how the children react and how terrifying everything is. The oldest house is scary, the paranatural is scary, and so are the authority figures. Mr. Bones says, when you tell someone a secret, you're hurting their brain very badly. He also says, Topher, too many slip-ups and your father will have to go on vacation without you. You don't want to end up like Meg, do you? The subliminal threats aren't very subliminal, but they do make you look at Dr. Darling a little bit closer. Casper, Ghost, Bones, all seem familiar. But who is portraying Dr. Darling in this light? The Threshold kids are made by Bethany Harrington and her team. They make the puppets and handle every element of production. So does this mean that Harrington and her team see Darling in this way, to interpret him as a character like this based on how they know him? Or is it just coincidence? According to one of the writers of Control, Mr. Bones had once been crushed by a house shift, so he's dead? So maybe he really is just representative of a random person within the Bureau, or someone who was in the Bureau, but I really do think the connection to Darling could be there. I'm not saying he's some evil, sinister villain, but I do think there is more than what meets the eye. And that what meets the eye is a very harmless, disarming, intentional picture that Dr. Darling paints. Just something to kind of think about. To add to this little speculation, in Darling's Blackrock video, he tells Pope about a door code, 665, and he references Neighbor of the Beast. This is a reference that Remedy always uses in their game, but there's a chapter in Alan Wake 2 called Room 665, and it's when Alan enters the dark place, specifically the Ocean View Motel. The point is to find the entrance to 666, which leads Alan to the Dark Presence. It's almost like this connection to Darling could be some kind of scratch version of him, a Dark Presence version of Darling, who to me does seem like he has something more to him, a darker layer behind his glasses and coat, and that non-threatening demeanor. In the final draft of Alan Wake 2, Darling even mentions 665 in his video, saying, subjectively, this is my day 665. So what does it mean? And what is the connection between 665 and Darling? Honestly, I have a ton of theories about Darling, about his many mentions of the Dreamer, and how Tom Zane showed up offering to team up with Art and Science, right after Darling said that was exactly what he needed. There's so many possibilities as far as Darling's connection to the Dark Place, Alan Wake, Tom Zane, and basically everything. He kind of feels like the main connection between the worlds now. I think there's more to Casper Darling, and I really do hope we find out in Control Resonant, and maybe even Alan Wake 3. I think his story is really maybe just beginning. But let me know what you think. This is everything that I could find about Dr. Darling. If I missed something, please let me know. There is a ton of information in game, and I tried to make sure that I got everything. But again, if I missed something, please just let me know. If you are still here, thank you so much for watching. I love Dr. Darling, and he's probably one of my favorite characters in the entire Remedyverse. I think there is so much potential for him, and I love the connections between Control and Alan Wake. I really hope they explore him more in Resonant. But let me know what you think. Where do you think Darling is? And what do you think his role in Resonant is going to be? We've already seen his appearance teased, so he obviously has to return, but in what capacity? Will he ever have a human form again? Do you think he will help Dylan? Do you think him and Dylan will reconcile, or maybe he will be some kind of antagonist to Dylan? It would kind of make sense considering their story. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in more Control videos, I have a bunch right now for members only that will be releasing weekly until Control Resonant releases. And then of course I'll be covering Resonant once it comes out. So if you are interested in more lore from Resonant and character deep dives, consider subscribing for those videos. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon members and my channel supporters. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time.